Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there? Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, episode number 108. Dave, I felt like we would never make it to today.
I know.
It feels like it's been like 9 weeks since we've done a show.
Trying week with many things, but we are here and we are pumped. And I'm just pumped because we are at the point of the New Jersey cross-country season where things are starting to get real. We have short coaches
The
this
Bowdoin
week.
meet. The
Bowdoin was awesome.
Fantastic.
Bowdoin was great.
Yeah.
Bowdoin was awesome. And now
Manalapan freaking showed out in Bowdoin, man. Wow.
Well.
Clay did his thing, like even
They
on the
well.
ladies' side.
CBA was obviously great. It's great to see
CBA,
Westfield still representing and running with a great squad, even though losing so many guys. Coach Tefelsky does a tremendous job there.
The pride there in Westfield. You cannot deny that pride down there.
We're going to see some things, I think, this weekend at short coaches. I mean, some schools aren't going, but it's usually a pretty good meter early on to kind of see where the athletes are.
I get why some teams don't go, but at the same time, if you're a team, like if you get to go to Homedale a good amount, you get to practice at Homedale a good amount. I get it. You don't want to sit there and do it again. It's grueling. Right. If you're not at Homedale a lot, this is a great opportunity to get that pre-run. And really, it's if you don't get the chance to drive over there and do it, okay, let's work that first hill. Let's work the bowl. Let's do that downhill. And it's just a strategy race more than it's where you're placing. This is get everyone that is competing on varsity to figure it out.
Yeah, so and it's good to just kind of gauge where you're at as a team, as an individual, and but I still expect to see people.
We're going to see fast times,
but we're also going to see people that maybe don't run as great here, who are just rounding into shape, training through, who are going to come back at the end. So it's a good gauge. It's not the end all, but it's always a fun meet here in New Jersey just to kind of see where everyone is. And here we go. Season's underway.
Let's get into our fun stuff here. Wherever you're watching from, we appreciate it. If you're watching on X, Facebook, YouTube, thank you very much. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, share the show. If you're on X, give us a repost and follow us there. Facebook, share us and follow us there. And as always, spreading this word of mouth is the biggest way that we will grow, and we will get to have our guests tell their awesome stories more and more and more. And as I do weekly, and I will continue to, it's getting closer. This is crazy that it seems like we started saying this like 2-3 months ago when Adam announced it. But Adam Nalvin, our buddy, 3rd annual River Rock and Run 5K is on Saturday, November 16th. You could still sign up. It is a 5K race, and you can either partner up. There's a cool baton that you get to keep, and you can hand that off with 2 people, or you can run it solo. Either way, all the proceeds go to Monmouth and Ocean County Food Bank right before Thanksgiving to make sure that, families that need it will get fed. Plus, you get rewarded with some good food, some good drinks at the end. So definitely go over there, sign up if you're in Jersey, and support a great race and a great cause. Last week, which seems like a year ago now, we had lots of fun. We had, a former athlete of yours, a former athlete of mine, friends of ours, Cassandra Polaview on the show, formerly Cassandra Rusco, the most decorated distance runner in Stockton University history. Yes. And, future Hall of Famer there. She's being inducted, which we are super proud of her. And we heard a great story. She's an amazing girl, and we just can't be happier for her. So go back and listen to that. Listen to 2 coaches proud of their athlete and forcing her to talk about herself and making it fun there. So, but this week, a week we thought would never come, but we're pumped. And what's cool about our guest today, normally Dave or I go seeking out our guests, and we ask them to come on, and a bunch of them are gracious enough to say yes. But we were pumped because we got an email from this woman, and she was representing an athlete, and little did we know that the athlete she was representing is a freaking monster, like a multi-event endurance athlete that you're going to have to hear it because she's incredible. But then when you talk to her, meet her, she's the sweetest person you are going to meet. So we're excited to bring her on. She is Jennifer Comfort. She is an Ironman, a coach, and a multi-time, triathlete and things like that, doing all that fun stuff. 20 years of running. We're pumped. What's up, Jennifer?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, you're laughing at my intro, calling you an absolute monster.
Yes, I'm cracking up.
I mean, your track record, the races you run, and I definitely want to give you the chance to talk about all this because I think
100%.
also one of the things that we always pride ourselves on, and we're going to jump right into it with you, is getting the stories of all the athletes and people we have on, and your path to getting to the point of becoming a runner, and then eventually a multi-athlete, and then eventually an Ironman. Like, the Ironman is the pinnacle of athletics, if we're being quite honest. Like, you could be a marathon runner and great at that. You could be like, but the Ironman, to be able to say I crossed that line in under 14 hours is insane for what you have to do. And when we get into it, we'll kind of explain what an Ironman is for people who don't know as well. But Jennifer, we're going to ask you the same question we ask everyone to start the show. What was the spark? And I want to have two sparks here. What was the spark to, number one, get you to want to be a runner? And number two, what went off in your brain to be like, you know what? I'm doing this running thing. Let me add biking and swimming and do the longest possible distances I can for all of them.
Well, I guess I'll start with my background just a little bit briefly. Yeah, sure. I did run some track when I was a little kid. I was probably like 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know. Here I'm in southeastern Washington State, so it's a desert over here. We're about 3.5 hours from Seattle, so our summers are hot. I mean, we're 100 plus. And I remember being down at that stadium and running laps and hills and being a little kid, and it was fun, but it was kind of just recreational. And then I played soccer growing up, which involves running, but I was more of a soccer player.
We love stealing like midfielders and making them middle distance runners, because midfielders make amazing middle distance runners.
Yes, they do.
You sit there and you can find that center mid, and you're looking at them, you're going
800.
You can run a sub too. Get on this track team. Like,
that's so funny. I was a center midfielder.
There you go. So,
which reminds me, I did run track in middle school. Oh my gosh. And I ran the 400 and 800.
So I can imagine your
center mid. Yep.
Middle school times as a center mid running. You were probably right around like 75, 70 as a middle schooler. And then probably right around 3 minutes, 250, 3 minutes,
240-ish,
240-ish.
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea what's
We're just spitballing here.
I'll take what you guys say.
There you go.
And then in college, I just continued to just do little 5Ks, maybe even 10Ks with my roommates, but totally just for fun. We didn't even time ourselves. It was just completely for fun. And then I kind of fell out of athletics for a while when I was in graduate school. Went through some things, and I wasn't exercising. I wasn't a very healthy person at all. I was very unhealthy. And I found my way back to running and triathlon too, after my first child. So in 2005, almost 20 years ago.
So you were someone, because it's crazy to think that, looking at your accomplishments, like we've seen your sheet of the races you run, and it's not like you just go and run at these races. Like, we've seen like first or second female in age group, first or second overall champion. Like, it's not like you're just going and finishing races. You are competing in these races. So to hear, it's like, it's inspirational to a chubby guy like me, thinking like, hey, maybe one day I can go back to being, I don't have to stay a non-athletic regular person the rest of my life. No,
you can, Alex. I'm in the journey now. I'm down 62 pounds, Alex.
Are you going to start competing again?
I haven't even run yet.
Let's see Masters. I want to see Masters.
I got an e-bike, and I just ride it to work back at home every day, and it 10, 12 miles every day. And it's been great. Just feeling better. So keep going with
Sorry for that. I just needed to be like, it's incredible to even think that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Alex, because when I started my first triathlon, I was terrible. I was not very good. I was doggy paddling in the water. I was on a bike that was it was not a race bike. It was not even it was something I found in my parents' garage. I don't know what the heck it was.
The old Huffy.
Literally, it was something from Walmart or Kmart or wherever back then. And it probably weighed 100 pounds. And I could run, but it wasn't anything great. So then I did my first triathlon. After a friend at the gym had recommended, I was just lifting and just I was a stay-at-home mom at that point, and I was at the gym just to get out of the house and for my, to kind of bounce back from my first child and just to have some community.
Now, was this before like all the Spartan races and Tough Mudders were thing? Because those became like a big fad. And I know that was like, and the thing is like, I thought it was cool, but then you had these people being like, I'm a triathlete. It's like, you sure as hell aren't. Like, you're running over obstacles. Like, you are not, like, you would get, like, you might be a good athlete.
It is fun.
They're fun as hell and they're hard. Don't get me wrong. They are difficult to do, but it's like, oh, you're not a triathlete. Like you're not. Like,
and it just turns into like this big drink fest anyway.
Which is there's nothing wrong with that. Okay?
Right. I've never done a Spartan race. I don't know. The electricity scare, that's a hard no for me. I don't even know if that's still a thing. Or climbing up walls because I'm a pretty short person.
So when you first started to train for this, like what was the distance of your first triathlon? Because obviously you didn't go right into the Ironman. So how did that whole process take place? And like obviously you fell in love with it. So what was that whole process like? And just how did you get to from there to
So in triathlon, everything, you always have a swim, bike, and run, but there's 4 distances. There's a sprint, an Olympic, a half Ironman, and an Ironman. And each distance doubles itself. And so I started at the shortest at a sprint. And it was a mountain.
5K,
yeah,
mile, 5 mile. Was that? I think that's like the sprint, right?
Yeah, the swim is, I don't know, it's
half
like
mile or something like that. Yeah,
it's short. Yes, half mile swim, and then we have the one I did was a 12-mile bike. Usually it's 10 or 12 miles,
and then a 5.
Yep. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was really hard. I was really terrible. And I saw that group, the triathlete group over there, and I was like, I want to be like them.
That's awesome.
And hired a swim coach, got a bike, and everything just escalated from there.
So what did the relatives say? What did the family say when you're sitting there and you're like, I'm about to dedicate obscene amounts of time to becoming an endurance athlete? And then like, obviously, like you said, you weren't very good to start. And usually when you're not very good at something, people are like, why are you doing this? And like, I've gotten it from doing podcasts. People are like, you make money? And it's like, no. It's like, then why you do it? It's like, because I like it. Leave me alone. Like, so what was like the reaction when you were like, hey, I want to take this pretty seriously?
I think my family thought it was kind of neat and cool and unique, but I don't think, because nobody else, I'm one of 6 children. So I come from a very big family. Most of us played soccer, and I thought, I think they kind of thought it was interesting, but didn't really get it, because I will admit, I went pretty turbo. I go all in on stuff. So, I'm either on or off, and I went
like
on.
You have to be that way.
Exactly. I would say if you're doing triathletes, you have to be all in.
And especially an Ironman. Like I feel like every person on that line at the Ironman, and especially that completes it, has exactly that same personality, because you
totally
have to in order to do it.
So from my first sprint triathlon to Ironman, that was 5 years. I did my first full Ironman in 2010. Yeah.
So was your spark and your motivation just like to get back into shape? Was that really what geared you? Or when did you like fall in love and be like, you know what, I want to make this a career, because you made it a career now?
It's not just about being
just about. So when did you want to make this a career as opposed to just wanting to do it to get in shape and things like that?
Sure. I got certified 9 years ago. So I've been a coach for 9 years. So that was really my spark. From the time I started that very first sprint triathlon, I did an Ironman in 5 years. I ended up specializing in 70.3s after that. And it was a 10-year span until I got to world championships. So it was a progression. It did not happen overnight. I will never claim that. But then 9 years ago, I was like, I've been to the world championships 3 times. I had done all these races, and I was like, and I still liked racing. And I still do. It just looks differently now, but I was like, I'm ready to give back. I think I have some knowledge and experience that I can share with others. And I just thought it was kind of a natural progression for me.
And and the thing is too, it's like, I think people need to realize, because right now I'm looking at your accolades again. Like people, like we're not just talking to someone that completes the Ironman. You were an all-world athlete for the Ironman 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So explain what goes into being an all-world athlete at the Ironman.
Well, that is based upon points, and I don't even know how the point system goes now. But it's also for 70.3. It's for both full distance and 70.3. 70.3 is simply a half Ironman. And you have to do each race, you get a certain amount of points based upon how you place. And then they calculate those points and give you bronze, silver, or gold world athlete status.
I mean, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like, so, like,
Thank
do you
you.
remember what your statuses were in all 5 of those years?
No, I
No?
don't know any.
I
I
mean,
forget. I don't even know anymore.
I would just be pumped to even be qualified for that. Like, that's freaking
Yeah.
awesome. So
I'd
you're
be pumped just to
going,
do one
yeah.
Ironman, I mean, one triathlon sprint,
Yeah,
let alone
it's
Ironman. That's
you could do
impressive,
it.
man.
Yeah, I have no doubt, Dave, you could do it.
I'm sure I could, but it takes like the amount of. I just want to get that set back for a second. How much time do you spend every day on training when you're training for an Ironman? Like, how much dedication and time does it really take? Because I can imagine
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I know just like training for a 5K in cross country takes a solid amount of time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Ironman. And do you do multiple disciplines on one day, or do you just kind of pick different events for each day? I'm fascinated.
Not to overcomplicate it, but totally depends on so many factors, on an athlete's background, and what they need to work on. Cycling legs take about 3 to 5 years to like really develop well. If you're not from a cycling background, if an athlete comes to me and they're from a cycling background, then they're going to be spending more time probably in the pool or running. But very, very generically speaking, yes, most days you're doing 2 disciplines, probably like a morning and an afternoon, or a morning and a lunch. And one of those might be a strength workout even. And then there's different periodizations of the training program too, right? Sometimes in the season, some weeks are going to be longer than other weeks. So, I mean, anywhere from, I would say, 8 hours up to, you could go 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 even.
Wow.
Again, depending on where the athlete is, and what their goals are as well. If somebody's trying to finish versus qualify for worlds, that's going to look a little bit different.
Sure.
Yeah.
What their other responsibilities are for career, for family. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But no doubt there's sacrifices made by every single athlete on the starting line.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely incredible. So one of my questions for you is, have you ever considered with your story doing like any sort of speaking? Because I've noticed that you were just an incredibly positive person. Like every time, like I said, like, I don't know if I could do it, you're like, you can. And like Dave, like said, no, I just would love to do it. It's like, you can, like, there's no hesitation with you. And I feel like your story, like just going to like speaking to like even like high level athletes, collegiate athletes and things like that, because it would resonate with so many people that even at that level, that because part of it is a good amount of what you guys do is mental.
Yeah.
Because we talked a little pre-show. Like, I admire your mental fortitude even more than your physical ability, because
100%.
when you're doing an Ironman, you're 10 plus hours of doing things, the half Ironman, 5-6 hours of doing your event, 7 hours. There's a lot of time to sit there and go, screw this. Like, what am I doing? Like, there was a whole lot of time to do that. And, I just recollect, like, I went through that doing 5Ks and things like that. So it's like in a much shorter span, I was willing to give up on things, and I'm happy I didn't. But like, your mental fortitude is crazy. How much training do you have to do mentally? Because I'd imagine that the training isn't just physical. The training is figuring out things about yourself, right? So how much training mentally goes into this as well?
Gosh, I love that. And it's something that has evolved, and I'm continuing to evolve with this part. The mindset, I meditate every day, at least twice a day right now. That was not always the case. I've only done that for 4 or 5 years now. And that works for me.
Sure.
To ground my mindset. And I don't know. I just approach training. I mean, it's one thing to have those feelings, like you were saying, Alex, during a race, but I think those same feelings and thoughts happen in training. Every single day, potentially, or many days. So
and training's even worse, right? Like, because there's no the reward at the end. The reward is later.
Yeah, there's no immediate gratitude. I mean, reward. And I was thinking of gratitude. I do. And in my earlier career racing, it was more, I just had a different mindset. And I'm really competitive. There's just no way around it. But also I had a shift at one point where I just started racing with more gratitude. And I know that's kind of a buzzy word right now, but but I really did. And I started racing more just out of just being thankful that I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And really internalizing that. And like, I found that my racing got so much better when I was able to be a little bit more thankful for what I was doing, instead of focusing on, all the, there's 5,000 things that you could complain about every training session, every race. Nothing's going to go right all the time. It's just not.
Yeah, I think,
and that's life too, right?
That's a good approach. Yeah,
I think every coach should try to instill that in their athletes. Like, because it's true. Like, we get caught up in the everyday lives of just focusing on negatives, even if it's small little things. Like you say, like, we just spend so much time. Whereas, just the way that you word things, like, I'm not going to do this today, but I will do this today. Just the way that you internalize and process thoughts can matter so much, especially in athletics. Because if you're looking for any edge, that might be the only edge that you can have, because everyone's training hard, everyone's in shape. So if you can get any edge, and just like you said, just love what you do. Like, like, if you're putting in all that work, at least enjoy it.
So have you found?
I also follow George Mumford. He's a mindset coach for. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
I've heard the name. I've never read it, but I've heard the name.
I love him. He was Kobe Bryant's mindset coach. He's coached Michael Jordan. He could all these, and he has a fantastic story of redemption himself. And I follow a lot of people, and I've read a lot of books also, but I do like his approach too.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing that philosophy a lot more even in high school. We had on Meg Waldron, who works with the kids and athletes, just about their mindset.
Yeah,
that's so important, and I think that's why that's a huge reason why we're seeing so many younger kids run so much faster. I feel like there's such a more positive mind frame about everything, and like there's just like a better relationship that the athletes even have with athletes on other teams. Like, it's just a much more positive vibe. I don't love all of it. I still wish that there was some sort of, cantankerous digs. But you can't argue with what we're seeing. And it just seems there's just a lot more of a positive vibe. And I think people are focusing more on mindset. We see it a lot more with pro athletes. They're really putting it out there that, yes, we are athletes, but we can struggle with the same things as everyone else. I think that's huge.
And I think it's the ability to hold both at the same time. Like, you can be competitive in a really hard athlete.
You could say hard ass.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say, but I don't know if we cuss here.
Man, this is a podcast. There is no FCC, and everyone that watches us is probably at least in high school, and they probably curse more than we do. Okay.
Good. All right, because I don't mind. I like to cuss sometimes. You can be a hard ass, but you can also race with lots of grace and gratitude, and I think you can do both of them. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to hold both of those at the same time, but I think it's something that can be developed, and it's perfectly, and it's an advantage. And I think having some gratitude and some mindfulness, it doesn't mean you lose your edge. You don't have to lose your edge.
No.
Just because you're not an asshole. You can be a nice competitor. I think doing both.
You know what? I think we saw that a lot too this year with the Americans and their confidence in distance running. Like, I mean, I think definitely and I think your coach matters so much. I think we kind of saw with Grant Fisher, he changed coaches. It might not have been working out well for him. He goes somewhere new. He has a whole new mindset, and you could tell that he just, not that he was more prepared physically, but it just looked like he was more ready mentally for any kind of race that went his way, and he was ready. So I feel like the mindset, especially in American distance running, has become a lot more positive, and they feel like they belong. And so I agree with you completely. And we see it in all aspects of the sport.
So, Jen, have you found that as you've, over the years, and you've taken this different approach, and, because a lot of people say, like, when you got to compete, you got to lock in, like, right? Like, you lock in. And I feel like a lot of people then start adding the pressure. They start going over the race plan. And have you found that just the approach of looking around going, I'm here, I made it to this point, I'm happy I'm here, let's just go do what I've trained to do. And like you said, taking in more of an approach of, I'm just happy to be here. Like, like you said, you still want to race hard and compete hard, but just like, this is awesome. Like, has that taken a weight off your shoulders as you compete, and has it made it easier to push past those walls when you get to them in your races and things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But I'm not going to lie. I raced a half Ironman 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. The night before, I was nervous.
Well, you're still human.
I was a mess.
You're still allowed to be human. Like,
but I was aware that I was, I'm not a mess. Yeah, I kind of was kind of a mental mess. And I was like, wow, where is that coming from? But I investigated it and I got curious about it. And I was like, wow, why are you so like uptight right now? Or where is that coming from? Right. And I talk about this with my athletes too, pre-race. If they want to be chatty with other athletes, be chatty. If you want to go over in the corner by a tree and close your eyes, go do that. Yeah. Like find what works for you. There's no one way. If you get energy from other people, use it. If you need to be by yourself to lock in, go do that. And I don't know, sometimes I do a little of both myself, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like the challenge as a coach, and like obviously you're coaching extremely high level athletes, you know, in the multi space, and you know, just the ultra marathon space. And I feel like as a coach, like there needs to be a balance, and even the best coaches back, like the hard ass coaches, you need to have a balance of holding accountable, right? When they're not doing their things, you know, sometimes even having to break them down, right? If they're being like resistant to like, why am I here? Why are you here? Like, but also always allowing them to know that it's never from a place of disappointment, anger. Like it's always from a place of wanting to succeed with them. And I feel like when you can build that relationship, like I played football and I've coached football. That's a hard sport. And you know, as a coach, you need to be hard because these kids can get hurt. You can get hurt. So it needs to be a very much more than other sports because of that contact. And you know, there is a lot of yelling. There is a lot of, you know, high energy too. Like, but the best coaches I've had, I've always known that when they're screaming at me, it's always from a place of they want to keep me safe. They want me to succeed. They want me. They're breaking me down, but they're the first ones to build me up after they break me down. You know, they'll reprimand me. They'll tell me what I did was wrong, but then they'll sit there and say, "Right, let's get it fixed. I know you can do it." Like, and it's the same thing the way I treated my athletes when I was coaching. And I used to love, like, I had a good group of athletes that I loved coaching at the long sprints level, and they used to sit there and come in a race, and good race or bad race, they would come find me. And it was like the first thing. And the bad race, they knew they would come to me and they'd be like, I didn't race well. And I'd be like, no, you didn't. Like, obviously you didn't, but X, Y, and Z, this is what we're going to do. You have another race. Let's go. Like, and I think that's got like there has to be the balance of accountability, but also knowing that holding them accountable isn't from a place of my ego as a coach. It's a place of our agreement is I'm going to get you better and you're going to allow me to help you get there.
And also, what are we going to learn from that race that didn't go how we wanted it to? I mean, not to be cliche, but there's always, and learning is a positive, right? I mean,
even in good races that like you run successful, how many, and especially like if you're going in longer races, like how many mistakes did I make it here? Like, was I where I needed to be here? Like, and there's always so much to learn from every time you ever compete in athletics in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been racing for 19 years. And I tell my athletes, I still learn something every single race. Every single race. I do something good and I do something that I learn from and I probably don't do again.
Do you have anyone following you with the drone while you're competing so you can like game film yourself?
I wish.
That would be awesome.
That would be nice.
Do you, because you had so much success as an athlete yourself, did you find that made it harder to coach because you expected every athlete to put in the time that you did? Because I know some people who have great success as athletes have a hard time understanding that, like, well, just do it like this. I did it that way, you know, like, so
why are you not willing to put in the time? Like,
right.
But I feel like because you didn't start off, like you said, as the best of the best, maybe you have a better understanding of the whole process, so you can fill your athletes in with that. So do you feel that because you had to go through the process and put in the work yourself, has that benefited you and made you better as a coach?
I would like to think so. And right now my athletes range from beginners to world championship qualifiers in endurance sports and winners. And the newbies, the new people, I love coaching them actually, because it does bring me back to when I started. And I remember going in the open water and crying, literally crying. I remember, yeah, that's how bad it was. I mean, but
that in tears to the water.
Yeah, I mean, or I remember, so many things. And so I would like to think, since I've not always competed at the highest level at all, and it took many, many years, decades to get to where I am. And I would like to think that I can help athletes in that process. And like you said, Dave, to be able to relate to them a little bit, or a lot of it, hopefully. Yeah.
I want to shift back gears because we kind of jumped up around, and I love it because it's fun. But I want to get back to you a little more in your career, because I want to hear about some of your favorite memories. And let's go in the Wayback Machine from when you first started doing this, now all the way up to where you are now. And you can even sprinkle in up some of your coaching successes as well. So we got time. Let's go, girl.
Oh, where do I start?
Start from your earliest, I guess.
Yeah, your best memories, your favorite memories.
Your like the first time you said that you just completed the sprint one,
Yeah,
like
whatever you want
to
do. What are your best memories? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I guess when I first started racing, I would do kind of the Pacific Northwest circuit. We have 3 local races, multi-sport races. We used to have 5 or 6. So I would always do those. And then I would go to Portland or some other cities near here and race there. So I would race almost starting in April or May, at least once a month, usually twice a month. And those were shorter distances, sprints and Olympics. And so I just have memories of and being a part of a triathlon community, and we would travel together, and that's just what we did. We raced. And then I guess, and then I got into marathons. My first one was here in Tri-Cities, Washington. I remember my first Boston qualifier was down in Arizona, flat and fast in January. It was awesome. Yeah.
Great.
And then I guess, and then I've gotten into ultra running and trail running in the past 4 or 5 years. I raced in Italy earlier this year, at Sciacca Trail in the Cinque Terre on the Mediterranean. That's way up there, is one of my all-time favorites.
That's great.
Just beautiful. Yeah.
So this has also allowed you to travel the world too.
Yeah. And then for triathlon, I've been to Nice, France. I've been to Mooloolaba, Australia, Hawaii, Miami. I've been all over the world. So it has allowed me to see the world.
Do you ever find yourself just admiring scenery while you're competing at all these gorgeous places? Sitting there, do you find yourself because everyone that's ever ran or done any of these things knows that every once in a while you just get into that mode where you're just moving. The arms are going, your pace is there, and you don't feel much. Have you found yourself getting, that's called the runner's high, right? Like you get the runner's high. Have you ever found yourself getting to that point and looking around as you're on a mountain somewhere in Nice, and you're just like, this is awesome. Amazing. What am I doing here?
This is really happening. I mean, I tear up and or cry often when I run, just out of pure joy. I am so, it's that runner's high. I have a funny story. I was racing in Hawaii and I was swimming, and I had done the swim, practicing the days before, but during the race, I'm swimming and I'm looking for the turtles. And I have to tell myself, Jen, you're racing. We are not looking for turtles right now.
That just sounds like something I'd say to my 6 and 4-year-old daughter. It's like,
look, turtles.
Don't look for the turtles. We got to keep going.
I mean, but it was just so beautiful. The water's clear.
I like turtles.
You know what's great though? And it's it has to be fun to be able to, since you're doing such long distances, you have those moments where you can have those lapses, right?
You have to.
And they are probably healthy to have those lapses because staying locked in for that long, even if you're coming at it with gratitude and you're trying to stay grounded, those moments of just enjoying it and just sitting there, that probably reinforces this is why I'm doing this.
Absolutely.
Not more than just competing, more than just catching that girl right up there in front of me. I can relock in a few minutes. This 5 minutes that I'm not locked in isn't going to destroy my race. That has to be
awesome.
I would love to eventually experience that, and maybe I will at some point. But I could just imagine just how cool that is. I just want to live vicariously through you. Can we just throw VR goggles on you on your next race? That's got to be the next step of cool.
That'd be
VR
scary.
goggles with the live stream, watching you compete, and you can commentary to us. That'd be dope. Let's do it. Let's invent
that would be so fun.
So you mentioned how and maybe Alex and Ida Moore, what an accomplishment it is to just finish a triathlon. So at what point do you get to the mind frame of where you don't even worry about finishing, where it changes into competing? Like, what was that evolution like? Because, you know, at first you're probably like, I'm just doing, like, you're just happy to just finish, but then you're like, you get competitive. So how does that change in your mind frame? Does that have to change your training, where you go from, I'm just glad that I did this, to no, I want to actually compete and do well?
Yeah, yeah. I remember vividly at a 70.3, a half Ironman in Miami, and it was pretty early on in my career.
Yeah,
And
I'm looking at your results right now, and I could see
what was
in 2011 you were 5th age group.
I was 5th, and so I missed a world slot by, I think it rolled down to, I don't think, I know it rolled down to the 4th place person, and so I didn't get it. But at that point, it wasn't really on my radar to qualify for worlds. But when I was 5th and the 4th place person got it, and I was just minutes away, I was like, oh, I'm not that bad.
And then mind you, she rattles off there 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 1st age group, female champion, female champion, female champion, female champion. Like, obviously you were like, I can do this.
There was a switch.
It was kind of like game on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is what I'm saying. Like you had to have that switch to, I'm just grateful that I finished this, to let's go. I can do. So that 5th place moment was the point where you're like, all right, now it's time to.
And I remember being at that awards roll down and not getting it, and walking back to the hotel with my friends and playing it cool and like, no big deal. Went into the bathroom and just sobbed. I was so sad, but because I was so close.
Imagine you worked so hard, and like you just got done.
And so, but then, like I said, I got that taste, and I was so close. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna, like, let's go for it.
So what was it like? You get your first major championship, 2012 Power Pasco Sprint Try. That's one of your accomplishments here. It says, you know, what was that like when you actually set out and accomplished your goal about a year later? Like, you felt it, you tasted it. Obviously, this isn't the 70.3. This is the Sprint Try, but like, you did it. You became a champion. And what was that feeling like when it was like, okay, like was that another moment of, I actually belong here. Like, I can do this type of stuff. Like, so what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I remember training, and I knew I had a shot at it, but there's some other really good females locally. I don't remember, to be honest. I don't know what I changed in my training, or if I just stayed consistent. I do think it's probably more of the latter, that I just really
sprint, like, you can make a lot less mistakes in that sprint try, right? Like, because like the 5K is quick, like, you know, that's all. It's all, especially in that like disciplines, like, you can't have as many lapses as you can running in a true Ironman or a 70.
And the transitions have to be quick when you're changing from swim to bike and bike to run. The T1 and T2, we call it, the transitions.
Make me more tired.
Those have to be quick, and I love quick transitions because it's just free speed. I'm not going to dork around.
Right.
I mean, you can, and it's fine for people that do, but it's also really, really challenging to like get in and out.
Is that something you practice? Is that something that like, is that something where like you will also know with some of the other female competitors, like she takes a little bit. I know if I'm here, I can probably get a little bit on top of her because I know
20 seconds is 20 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, you know, or it's like, do you put your shoes on your bike, or you put them on prior to? I'm sure all these things.
That's like a NASCAR, like when they do the tire change.
Totally. Yeah, you can totally NASCAR your transitions, but also it's practicing it, and it's also a mental thing too, because I recommend, or I tell, you know, all my athletes, you can practice your transitions in your mind over and over and over again. So when you get in the race and you're doing it, you've already done it 100 times. And you're not even thinking about it. You're just going through the motions.
Have you ever practiced with like fire person gear? Because I know like they train like getting their gear on and off. Like I feel like, because they like, I actually, when you know, I'm a driving instructor, and like some of the kids that I train are like firemen and stuff. They're like 16, 17. And they say like part of it is they get trained and they get timed on their gear, how quickly they get it on and off. Because you have to get on, like, it's all heavy, the 50-pound sack. Like, I feel like that would be like a cool challenge for you guys because it's heavier. So if you can get that stuff on and off quickly, like the other stuff, obviously it's different because you're not sopping wet, right? Trying to get off a wetsuit that's clinging to you. And
right.
Like
we do. Like triathletes practice it. We practice transition. I mean, not all, but a lot of us, we practice transitions like in real life in training. There's also one workout that I love. It's called I don't even know what the name of it is, but you run and bike like just multiple times back and forth. You just run, you bike, and then you run, you bike, and then you run, like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, shorter distances, but you're just practicing your transitions over and over and over for like 1.5 up to 2 hours.
I can imagine the higher level you get, the more important that becomes, right? If you're just doing it, and like I can imagine your transition as you were coming into this, and it's like when you first did it, you were just kind of like, "Oh, let me,
my God,
let's do this."
And
I'm done swimming. Let me go ride a bike.
Now it's just like you're getting out of the water. You're like,
let
me go ride my let me go ride my Walmart Huffy, and then
and it depends on the distance too. Also, like you said, the sprint triathlons, those transitions have got to be super quick. Even half Ironmans and Ironmans, though, the higher level, if you're competing for a world slot or an age group podium, you're not going to F around in transition.
Well, because you know, in like all training and racing, you do want to keep contact with the people that you know you're going to be close to, right? So if your transition is too slow, now you have to work extra hard to get back in contact with that person that maybe I compete with them. They beat me every once in a while, but we know we push each other, and they're not going to give me an inch. They're not going to wait for me. So they're thinking the same thing. Like,
totally.
I know Jennifer's a quick transitioner. I need to get quick too, because you want to be next to each other because you work hard, but at the same time, it's like, if you ain't next to me, I'm just going to dust you. Like, you got to earn the right. So that's it's so fun.
It's just cool how, because I come from a track background where like there weren't transitions. Like you brought your spikes and your trainers, but like, how much equipment do you have to bring? Every race, like you got to bring a bike, you got to bring shoes, bike shoes. I'm sure you got to wear. Like, do you wear your bathing suit? Obviously, that stays on for the duration.
Yeah, we call them tri-kits. So it's a well, you can have a 1-piece or a 2-piece. I choose a 1-piece, and so it's tight Lycra, and then the chamois, the padding in it for biking is quite thin, because you run in it also. Whereas for cycling shorts that you're training in, the pad is thicker. But for racing, they're pretty. So yes, you're wearing the same outfit the whole time, whether it's a swimsuit or a tri-suit or a tri-top and shorts. Yeah, so, we're the same thing.
That's something else. Like you have to make sure that fits perfectly. I would imagine, to avoid chafing and things like that. So like just so many little
lots of baby powder.
So many,
so much
Vaseline,
baby powder.
But
the triathletes are keeping baby powder in like business
and Vaseline. But it just it's just funny how there's so many things that, like, as just a person who just runs doesn't even have to think or factor that you have to have and prepare just to compete.
Yeah, like you want to body glide your neck so you're not getting. We use Body Glide, or I use Pam, just like cooking spray around my wrists, my ankles, my neck, to prevent that chafing.
Is there a certain thing you're allowed to use and not allowed to use for competitive advantage, right? Like you use Pam, but are there certain substances that you're not allowed to use because maybe in the water it might give you like a little bit of an edge, or is it kind of like this is long enough where that's not going to matter that much?
Like, listen, you're doing a freaking Ironman. I don't care what.
Hey, I don't know. Rules are rules. There's crazy rules in all places.
Yeah, I mean, like your swimsuit, your wetsuit has to be, I believe, 5 millimeters. It can't be any thicker. So there are triathlon specific wetsuits that you wear.
If it's cold, that must suck. If you're getting into a cold body of water, like obviously it's like
you're going like multiple miles, you're gonna warm up.
Yeah, kind of. But some swims, Indian Wells 70.3, and that's coming up in December. That reservoir is cold. I just had a meeting with an athlete yesterday who's going to do it, and I've done that race twice, and I'm like, there's just no way around it. It's cold.
You just never want. You just go and do it.
Well, you do. It's really the first 2 minutes are going to be the worst, 2 or 3 minutes, and then you do warm up. But then the hard part of cold water is getting out, and sometimes the outside temperature is colder than even the cold water. And so trying to get your bike gear on, actually just in the race a couple of weeks ago in transition, my hands weren't working very well because they were, and it wasn't even cold water. I mean,
you find a need to stretch every once in a while.
I dropped my bike. Yeah.
You guys take you encourage that too? Like, even if you're trying to compete, like stop and stretch if you need to. Do not pull a muscle, like, know your body, or is it just like, screw it, tell that muscle to go away?
No, you have to know your body. Yeah. And you got to know your body. If you're going to cramp, then you got to do what you need to do to prevent it. Or if you're running the half marathon or the marathon and you start to cramp, then you probably maybe do need to stop at the aid station and stretch out or take in more electrolytes or whatever.
So here's the question. Should the Ironman be in the Olympics? I know there are a lot of Ironmen and a lot of
Ironmen
there. No, but it's a sprint try and it's a team sprint. And it's a very quick one. It's not like they run a mile, they bike, I think, 2.5, and then they swim, I think, a half. It's not like, and it's
but they just swim a half mile in that water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, I get it. I get
disgusting.
it. But I feel like, you know, the Ironman, especially as it's growing in popularity, you're getting so many more males and females and not just completing it, but doing it fast, doing it well. I feel like there's enough people in the world now that you can field world teams and you can make a really competitive Ironman field. And I think it will be awesome for the sport to be able to see and like to showcase, like me and Dave, we've considered like the best athlete in the world has always been the decathlete in track, like they do everything. But you gotta include the Ironman as like the best endurance athlete in the world, like because like you're doing it, and it's not like they're just completing it; they're completing it fast. And obviously, we talk about some of the ultras and things like that.
Or the Tour de France is crazy too, man.
Yeah, so it's like, but they have biking and tours at the Olympics, like they do a Tour de France style thing for the Olympics. Why not get in the ultimate athletics? Like that is the ultimate phase of athletics. And I feel like they're missing a real opportunity
because they'd rather have breakdancing.
No, that's gone. That's gone. That was Australia's choice or whatever. No, it's France's choice. So I found out each Olympics gets to choose their event. That
I didn't know this.
Like, and they get, and like breakdancing was the event that France chose because French are freaking weird.
So what is the US going to choose in 2028?
I think flag. I think it's the flag football.
Is it really?
Flag football.
Flag football.
I think we chose flag football.
Are they going to have pros?
Okay.
Yeah, I think Tyreek Hill wants to do it, and Coach and Roger Goodell told the pros to go do it.
No way.
Yeah,
I have not heard this.
Yeah,
okay,
flag football players of choice.
I didn't know.
So each country, Ironman needs to, whoever runs the committee, like, or you probably know some of the people that run.
They
need to start lobbying the IOC to get a country to choose that Ironman as like theirs, because I think that would be. It would show a new thing, and like, don't tell me people wouldn't watch it. Dave and I will sit there glued to the freaking marathon. People stay glued to the Tour de France. Like,
I don't know if they'll watch it for the whole time. I mean,
could you imagine like, but you imagine drones going with the leaders, do things and stuff? Like, we have the technology to constantly stay on your leaders, and then to get people to realize just how much of freak athletes you guys really are. Like, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity for, you know, and you guys work your asses off. And there isn't a ton of pay, I'd imagine, in doing a lot of this stuff. Like, there's obviously prizes and pots, but probably not as much as it should be. But like, man, why the hell are we not showcasing some of the best athletes in the world? Like, that's something that they need to be doing.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think you're onto something here.
I think
I'm gonna go get on those message boards.
Yeah, let's do
USAT. It's a national governing body, United States Triathlon, and we're under, you know, the U.S. Olympic Committee.
Yeah, I'm
there
sure
you go. So I think
we're already having that. The national governing body.
Just make sure that you show them this clip of Talking in Oval so we can get credit for getting the original.
Okay, all right.
We'll make you could be the spokesperson for the sport. That'll be but the idea came from Talking in Ovals, damn it.
Done deal. I'm going to talk to my people after this.
So I want to talk to you about something that you talked about on our pre-show. You were coaching an athlete who just did a 10-time Ironman. Can you just explain this craziness that you told us about? Because I'm still wrapping my head around what it exactly that he did, and the fact that he won. Can you just explain the amount of time that this person spent competing?
Yes. So it's called a DECA. I'm still getting over it myself, and I didn't even do it. It was at the start of September. Just a month ago.
The start of September. We're like, it's at the start of September. It's at the start of September,
and it just ended yesterday. No.
so just kind of explain exactly. I mean, it's 10 Ironmans, but just like can explain like how it's done and just. What a ridiculous accomplishment.
Sure, because Ironman's not long enough. So we go into ultra triathlon. And this was the longest triathlon in the United States. It happened in Lake Ottawa, Wisconsin, which is actually very beautiful. And the weather was just fantastic. So there's a few different formats for ultra triathlon. You can do one per day. So one Ironman per day and repeat that for 5 days, for 10 days. My athlete chose to do what we call a continuous. So he did all of his swim, 24 miles, all of his bike, 1,120 miles, and then 10 marathons, 262 miles. He completed it in 11 and a half days.
It's crazy.
The cutoff was 14 days.
That's about like almost one per day for 10 days. That's insane.
That is.
How do you swim 24 miles straight? How?
It took him 17 hours and 4 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, but 17 hours and change.
So you as the coach, how much were you like decision making wise? Like, was there a real like long conversation about how to tackle this, his strengths, and if he'd be better off doing it Ironman, or one discipline at a time? Like, what were the conversations going back and forth? Because there obviously had to be game planning, because you don't just make that decision to go and bike 2,000 miles and run 200 straight. Like, that is gearing up. Like, oh.
Well, let me tell you what. So, and he won't even. His name is Luke Sweet. I would like to give him full credit.
Shout out, Luke. Absolutely.
He's a wonderful.
Luke, we need your story.
Person.
Let's go. Let's get you on here at some point, Luke.
You should. Yeah. He's amazing.
Anybody who does 10 straight Ironmans.
His journey started 4 years ago. He just started Ironman 4 years ago.
And he's doing 10 Ironmans straight. Okay.
Yes, because his first Ironman was during COVID, got canceled. I think his first Ironman was 2021. Wow. And then it's just progressed. And so he did, it like progressed like that. And so then he actually did a double first. So he did a single, and he comes from an ultra running background, very accomplished ultra runner. And then he went to a double, and they call them anvils because Ironman is a trademarked name.
Okay.
Because these are, but we can say iron distance, or we can say Ironman. I don't care.
I don't care either.
They might sue us, but no.
Listen, they're not getting anything out of this show.
Hey,
so,
Rocky said it best. Sue me for what? Right?
Yeah. Anyway, so he did a double Ironman, and then last year he did a quintuple, which is a 5-time. And he did it continuous. So all the swim, all the bike, all the run. So go back to your original question. That's just kind of the progression that he chose to do and wanted to do, as far as doing it a continuous instead of a one per day. Okay. And he had to, of course, lots of training and lots of support from his family, and just a lot of everything.
That guy must be absolutely shredded.
He is. Yeah. And he actually, on this training cycle, he built muscle while training for this DECA. I don't know, upped his protein and calories and strength trained on top of all of the endurance that he's doing 20 hours minimum per week.
I feel
in swim, bike, run.
Be studied, because I feel like you guys don't have any lactic acid buildup. Like, I feel like it just does not happen. Like, because or you guys have trained your body enough where it's like, we don't want this anymore. Go away, lactic acid.
I don't know.
Like, it's insane to think the physical body can actually do what any of you accomplish, especially him doing it. But
him and the DECA, talk about mindset. I mean, man, that is.
Are you guys allowed to listen to music at all while you do it?
In a normal Ironman, you're not allowed to. In this one, yes, you could. He did very minimally. Not on the bike, of course, just because that's a safety issue. But on the run, you can. But he didn't very much, actually.
I would just listen to Motorin the whole time. Motorin. on repeat. Like, that would be my motivation.
I tell you what, out on that course, there was music, but it was singing, because some of the athletes are making up songs while we're running and walking. I mean, it gets wacky out there. It gets
10 straight Ironmans. Yeah, your mind has to. I mean, I couldn't imagine
a few beers. Like, I need to drink a little to keep going. Like,
it's just unfathomable to me that's even like a possibility. Like, just an Ironman itself is a ridiculous accomplishment. Like, the human body just absolutely amazes me. Like, when you think we reach a certain level, like someone's like 10, and then you told us that there's a race where they do 30.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Are we gone? Yep. I think Jen lost us.
I was going so well.
It was going great. Let's see. Let's private chat here.
I can't hear right now. Oh, can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you. Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Siri started talking to me, and I don't know. Sorry about that.
Does he plan on doing this 30 coming up, or is that a goal of his eventually?
So
there is a 30 going on in Italy right now as we
30.
speak. A 30.
Does he plan on trying it at some point?
I do not know. He's in recovery right now for a minimum of 3 months, pretty much.
That's it?
Yeah.
3 months?
Well,
that's it? I'd have to recover for the rest of my life if I did 10 Ironman in a row. Like, honestly, you have to like gurney me off away from there after like one Ironman.
All right, Jen. So here's a question. We have this at 10 Ironman, and now there's a 30. Do you think we're going to reach a point where the human body reaches its limit, or do you think that we're just going to keep finding ways? Because it's like, you know, people thought that Roger Bannister would self-implode if a human being broke the 4-minute mile. Obviously, when that's not good. So I'm just curious, like, as a person who trains in this and does this, do you keep seeing people just keep going further? I mean, obviously now we have a 30 Ironman straight in a row. That's insane. But like, do you think that the human body has a limit, or do you think that we just keep evolving, just keep pushing and pushing and pushing this? This is fat. This is
amazing. I love this.
I think we don't know. I think we don't know. I mean,
I
on the
agree
same
with you.
race as the Deca was going on, the 10 time, there was also a quintuple, a 5-time. And one of the gentlemen athletes from Italy, there were some issues with that race. He flew from Italy to Wisconsin, set the North American record for the quintuple while the Deca is going on in the
That's
quint.
Incredible.
And so he just set the record just a couple of weeks ago for the 5-time. So I think I don't think we know, to be honest.
Right. When it comes to training, does where you're training matter? Because I forget who I read about. He was a guy that he just goes around and just like breaks ultra marathon records everywhere. Like he'll just go do like 100 miles randomly and just shatter it. He's insane. I forget. He's like from some mountains in like Norway. Like I forget. I read about this guy. Like, does where you grow up, where you're training matter? Like, because like, do people naturally, because of their environment, have like a higher VO2 max and things like that, or like, or is it just something where it's like a mindset of like, regardless of where you are, if you start training your ass off, you can get to a certain level?
I would like to think the latter. That if I think there is some genetic predisposition.
Of course, there's some talent. There's talent.
There has to be.
Thing.
There's no,
like you are obviously a talented endurance runner to accomplish what you've done, and you know I could train. Some people could train their asses off and but to be able, and because it's mental, physical,
you need both. Yeah, you need all aspects.
Nutrition, it's everything. Everything.
Yeah. But as far as like a perfect place or in the world or geography or elevation level, I don't know.
Because I know, like, you know, runners, like distance runners, go to Colorado because they love training at altitude.
Or Flagstaff.
You know, obviously in the Alps and things like that. I've heard of like so many athletes going out to the Alps and training because like that's like just the difference that you're getting there. Because then when you come back down to sea level, you're at such a different, like it's an advantage. Have you found that training at those certain places has helped you, or do you go to specific places to train for specific things at times that you think give you an advantage?
I wish. I'll tell something I learned that didn't work was just for me personally, the ultra I did over in Italy earlier this year, I trained the hills where I live. No, they were not, or I trained the mountains where I live. They were hills compared to what was going on in Europe. And I found that same thing in cycling too. When I raced over in Nice, France, I trained all the hills I could where I live. And I thought I was pretty well trained up. And then I get over there.
Right.
I trained hills, not mountains.
Those are mountains.
Over there, those are mountains.
Which is crazy to think the Tour de France, right? Like it doesn't look as steep as it is. Like it's crazy.
So I think I was at a disadvantage because of where, well, I don't know. I think I would have trained differently or gone somewhere else if I was trying to, you know, even racing at a higher level than I was, even though it was the World Championships for the race in Nice, for example, but it still was not adequate mountain training for the course.
So it definitely can have an effect.
Yeah, I think so. Because then the Europeans, like they in the trail, in the ultra, they're just like, especially the downhills, actually the descents are where, for me, I'm just not a good descender. They're like
running too, it's harder on the knees. Like you don't.
Yeah, they're just like prancing down the descents, and I'm like sidestepping the cobblestones because I don't want to break an ankle.
Oh my God, yeah, I'd be terrified. So one of my questions for you is, when did you want to start coaching, and why did you want to start coaching? Like, obviously, like, you were training and things like that, and things started to go well, but there's a difference between being able to be an athlete, be good at it, and then also being able to train others. So why and when did you really start coaching?
So in 2015, I was still a stay-at-home mom at that point. I went to school. I have a master's degree in international relations.
Oh, cool.
Concentration in peace and justice studies. And so
Well,
I was
you
on
should
a
be
much,
over here in New York working at the UN.
well, that was my plan.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, I was totally going to go to the UN or State Department, or I was in CIA interviews
Oh, wow.
for intelligence.
So
And that
just
was kind of,
overall being a badass for your whole life. Your goal was always to just
well,
be a badass.
I don't know. I mean, no, I don't know. I can't
You're
help
so
who I
humble.
am. But I do like to do things, yeah, to the full extent. And so that was kind of what I thought my career path was.
Yeah.
And then I got married and had a child like right away. And so I couldn't, those career paths didn't make sense at that time for me. And then that's when I got into triathlon and running, ultra running. And then 2015 was when I just decided I was still a stay-at-home mom, and I'd been racing for so long, and it was great. But I'd reached enough success, and that's when I was like, okay, I think I can give back to other people at this point. And I felt like I had something to give at that point from my experience. So that's when I went and I went down to Utah and went to in-person training. I'm a USAT, United States Triathlon certified coach. And then we re-up our certifications every 2 years. So I've done that ever since. I worked for 3 other coaching companies before I branched out on my own.
Honestly, like, I think that, like, just from talking to you now, I
Mm-hmm.
could see you being an incredible coach, because you obviously
Uh,
have the knowledge of the sport. You know what it takes to get to a high level, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
but you've also, like Dave alluded to earlier, like, you didn't start off coming into this with a boatload of talent. It's not like you came
No.
in and you hit the wall running. Like, you had to work at it. You had to
Mm-hmm.
understand and learn your craft and work hard. And and I think, like,
Mm-hmm.
and just hearing the way you talk about the sport, you obviously study it and you
Mm-hmm.
want to make yourself better, and you're still competing. I think that also helps as well, that you're still in it. So it's not like it's coming from someone who's like Dave or I, who's just like, we used to do this. Haha. Like, it's so I could just see you just being someone who is very easy to be coached, be coached by.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I've gone back and forth about competing myself and coaching. At first, I thought I had to compete at a highest level, world class, to be a good coach. I really thought that. See Dave shaking his head. Like, that's not true, right?
Some of the best coaches
it's not.
aren't
That's such a fallacy.
yeah.
It's wrong.
I mean,
Some of the best coaches were just like not good at all at their sport, or just
if
not
you
like
get
you have to you understand it though. Like, there's a difference.
even if you look like pro levels, how many coaches were great players? They were like
Most of them aren't
college players who started coaching and then worked their way up. Like I think it's almost harder when you do excel at something, because it's hard to coach people who maybe don't have that same talent. You're like, just do it, like you really have to. That's why they say in baseball, most coaches are catchers, because they see the whole game. Like they are in charge of seeing everything. Like, as a coach, you have to see everything. You have to notice everything in athletes. So if you haven't, if you have always been great and things have always come easy to you, which is not the case for you, I feel like it's harder because you don't have that understanding of the struggle that what it takes.
Adversity. Yeah, like if you haven't experienced if you haven't experienced adversity, if you just had everything, and like, don't get me wrong, people that have God-given talent and are just really good
can be great,
never experience adversity and get to a high level. God bless them. Like, that's awesome. Like, but it's like people that have battled injuries, people that have come back, people that maybe like know that, like, here's the thing, like, Dave was a talented runner. I know I was a talented runner. I battled injuries and my mental edge left. Like, there was just no other way of explaining it. College, my mental edge was gone. When I was a younger runner, I would see a back and I would say, I'm going to get him. As an older runner, my edge was gone. I was like, well, I suck again. Like, you need, like, that happens, like, when the edge goes away, but it's like, it's just something that's there. And it's obvious that you still have that edge, But then when you become a coach, the edge comes back for your athletes. Like,
Yes.
you're not
Yeah.
doing it anymore. And like I've said before, and you probably said this, you were probably happier for your athlete who just won the 10 than
you were for
most of
yourself.
the other races that you've won and competed in, because it's like,
Absolutely.
we've worked our asses off. We know what you could do, and now you did it. And it's like, being a part of those things is always special. And I've said, I've gotten more out of being a coach than I ever did out of being an athlete.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my athlete success, it means way more than my own personal success right now. And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm still competitive. Like, I'm a competitive person, but I throw everything into my athletes. And that's why I evolved my racing, and got into ultra running and kind of gave triathlon a little break. Yeah. Even I went so far as 2 years ago, I got into bodybuilding, which is not like opposite of endurance, because I just wanted to try something different. It's a whole nother sport. Yeah. But I wanted to just like see, and I was getting injured too. I've been through so many injuries,
sure.
Which I think also, I don't know if you guys can relate, that also helps me coach, because I've done so many things wrong as an athlete, like so many stupid things.
100%.
It's because you can look at them and relate to the athletes. If they're going through an injury, you can give them your story, because it's so much easier when you can come down to their level and relate, right? Like, I had ankle problems, and I had it all throughout my career. I had 2 surgeries. And it's like, when you're looking at an athlete with a surgery, you can look at them and go, this was my mistake. And mine was always, I came back. I healed quick, but I would come back too quickly. And it's Dave knows. Dave used to watch me get hurt in one race and then not even take a week off, come back, run, and compete. Like, I never gave myself a break. Advil was my best friend.
Oh gosh, I can relate to that.
So it's like, but it's like, then you can pass that experience. And as an adult and as a person that's done it, you can look at your athlete in high school and go, I promise you have time. I promise you have time. You don't feel like you need to do it now.
And rest is good. You don't have to do it all in once. You know, it's got to be controlled.
And I think that's also, it definitely helps when you have that experience and you can relate to your athletes. And
absolutely. And just to be more empathetic and go back to that mindset. I've had injuries that they have made me downright depressed. I mean, really low. Really, really low, like any athlete. So, when that happens to my athletes, and a lot of, especially my adult athletes, it's holding them back from themselves, instead of pushing them.
You know what? Very good point, because you deal probably mostly with adults.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do coach soccer in high school as well.
Okay. Nice. But you can tell.
I was actually watching clips of that today, because I love those. But mostly adults.
My point is, you can tell the huge difference between adults and high school kids. Like you said, like, just there's probably more motivation in an adult because they are choosing to do this and they lived life. So like, they have made this choice. Whereas kids, you have to work more on the motivation factor and get them going. Whereas an adult, it's like I'm choosing this. Like, I'm paying you as a coach. Like, this is what I want to do. Whereas high school, it's like they don't really know. They're out for the team. So that's cool. That at least you probably get to deal with people every day who want to be there and want to put in the work. And that makes your job much more exhilarating and exciting as a coach. Like, yes.
Yeah. My adult athletes are very motivated overall. They're very motivated, sometimes too motivated, which I can relate to. And then you're getting injured or you're burning out. And so, so it's regulating that a little bit with my adult athletes for sure.
So I just want to shift gears for our last little topic, because I think that we've alluded to a lot of this stuff, but I really want to get into, just for a little bit. I don't want to spend a ton of time because you've been gracious. You've given us over an hour and I love it.
Oh gosh,
it's been fantastic. But you have alluded a lot to just like mindset, while things like, what has becoming an endurance athlete done for you mentally? Because, it seems like, and just from talking to you and like what you gave to us, and like when we asked you some questions, it seems like you have used this all as a form of therapy in a lot of ways. Like that you have really been able to, like you talked about, being gracious, being mindful. And it seems like it's turned you into that person.
Yeah, it's carried over into all aspects.
Carried over into your life and your athletes. So how have you used running and being a multi-athlete? And have you used it as a form of therapy? And what has it done for you as a person? What have you found out about yourself and things like that?
Great question.
Oh, such a good question. I don't even know where to start with this. I think as a person, I've always struggled with depression and like clinical depression in the past and anxiety. So I have, and I wasn't even aware of it for so many years. I didn't have very good self-awareness. My emotional intelligence was really low, like
And, you know, and as
F,
an adult, you
like
just
F
grind,
minus.
right? Like, you just
Yeah.
grind. Like, you just tell yourself,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm just in a slump. I'm gonna grind. I'm in a slump.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I'll get through it. I
And
just gotta
even
X,
as an
Y, and Z
endurance
has to go
athlete,
right."
I just ground and
Sure.
ground and ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how. I think I used to use endurance as an escape from those issues in life, and now I use it honestly just to celebrate life. Like, it just makes me so happy to be outside
That's
running, like
awesome.
so
That's
happy.
fantastic.
And I think, and it's taken again almost 2 decades to evolve and to get to that place. Lots of, again, lots of,
Have you
I don't
had a
know.
specific, like, breaking point or kind of, like, rock bottom moment even at like you said, you were using it as an escape as opposed to a
Hmm.
source of enjoyment. Was there,
Hmm.
like, a rock bottom moment? Because
Sure.
like, you experienced success pretty early on. Like, you were competing and then you locked in and you started to really compete at a high level in a lot of your
Yeah.
races. So
Yeah.
it's not like you were sitting there and like, "Oh, I'm 200th. Oh, I'm 100th. Oh, I'm in," like, you were competing and you were
Hmm.
successful, and a lot of people will equate success with happiness, right? But
Mm.
you know, and happiness is fleeting. You want to be content. You don't want to be happy. You want to be content. You want to be satisfied. Like, there's a
Yeah.
difference in a
Oh,
lot of
there is.
that. So, was there a time, like, do you have a specific moment where you found yourself still competing, still working your ass off, still winning, still doing well, but just at the lowest of low? And like, how did you snap yourself out of that and get yourself
Oh.
into that moment of, no, this is awesome. I have legs. I can run. I'm talented. Like, when did that snap into you?
It happened right when I started coaching. So I went to Lake Tahoe. I got first age group. I was at the top of my game. I was succeeding in my races, and I was miserable.
Miserable.
I
Oh,
was
yeah.
so
Been there. Yep.
miserable. I was abusing alcohol so much because I
Been
did
there.
everything, and yeah,
Which endurance
I
athletes
was
do.
really good at it too.
And the thing
I
is,
was,
it's like
yeah.
one of our buddies, we had him on this show, Adam Vess at
Hmm.
Marist. He was a really talented runner, national champion in
Hmm.
high school and things like that. He did a whole paper on why endurance athletes and great athletes drink, because it
Yeah,
simulates that endurance high that you get when you're drunk.
absolutely.
And so, like,
Hmm.
I'd imagine that's similar to why you were abusing alcohol at the time,
Yeah.
because it's a similar high to when you're really getting into that moment of training.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but it was just, so in hindsight, I don't know how I did it. I mean, I was competing at a high level. I was drinking at a very high level. Um,
Beer fest
and,
style.
uh, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, after getting that world championship slot, first place age group, I self-checked myself. I put myself into rehab. I
Wow.
chose to do 3 weeks of inpatient. And so that was pretty low. I mean, that was freaking embarrassing. I mean, I hated myself. I was so ashamed. Like, I had so much shame, and it's still difficult to talk about, but I can now. And I think I should share that with other people
You
that
could
may be
never tell.
experiencing that.
You can never
Really.
tell. You really can't, with your personality and just with how you approach and how you attack things with such
Yeah.
positivity. Like, and that's the thing too. And I think like you could be an inspirational person to a lot of
Mm,
people, because everyone's fighting a battle and you don't know
yeah.
what it is. And
Hmm.
I feel like your story, the fact that like just everything that we've heard today, like, I'm serious. You need to be a public speaker. Like,
Oh
outside
my
of
gosh,
coaching,
I
like,
don't know about
your
that.
story.
I have a meditation for public speaking that I listen to before I speak.
I mean, it's like, but just going from like, I'm out of shape and I want to get in shape. Like, I had a child, I want to
Hmm.
get in shape. And just from
Hmm.
getting in shape to now I want to compete at a high level, and
Yeah.
going through success, but not enjoying it. And now, like, to see where you are now, and I'm inspired. I want to go
Uh-huh.
work out. It's going to last for a night, and tomorrow I'm going to go back to not doing it, but
Right.
I want
Yeah,
to.
yeah. And I think also I'll mention one more thing. Part of my abuse of alcohol was that I did lose one of my very best friends. He was running the Chicago Marathon and died running the marathon
Oh my God.
in 2001.
Wow.
We weren't exclusive, but we had been friends since we were born. Our families are still best friends, and we were kind of a little something else. But he passed away. Um, and so that sent me into a spiral also. So I was using alcohol to deal with that grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, but also today, that's one of the reasons why I am genuinely thankful to be here, why running and multi-sport, but really running too is something that keeps me connected to him, to his memory, and to celebrate just being here. Because that grief was just, I wasn't coping. I did not cope with it very well at all. I'm actually lucky to be alive. And I really mean that. It was ugly.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure, I mean, yeah.
And it just goes to show, like, you know, it doesn't matter, like, you can have a support system, but if you're battling, it's so tough to, like, get through things, support system or not. And I know people will see things and it'll be like, oh, where's their parents or where's their significant other? But it's like sometimes people internalize things so much that it doesn't matter who's there, what they're doing. And it's hard to notice because people mask things very well. So, you know, and again, like, success is supposed to cure all, but it doesn't. You know, sometimes success can make things worse. So it's like,
it does. Yeah. And I thought hiding it was being strong. And now, hell no. No way, man.
Like, you were successful while doing it. So it's like, oh, I guess I can do it, right? I can balance this. I'm fine. I'm still running well. I'm still winning. I just made worlds. Like,
not how it works.
Yeah.
No,
not how it works.
I hated myself. I hated myself. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, what is this? What is this for? Yeah. So on the outside, it looked great. On the inside, I was dying.
You know what, Jen?
So I made that change. And then in rehab, I came back, got certified to be a coach. And here we are.
I am genuinely happy that you've taken the road that you've taken to get here, because if not, we would have never been able to interview you. And this has been freaking fantastic. If anyone that's listening right now or watching wants to get coached, I don't know if you can find a better endurance coach that would actually invest. And I recommend, where can people go in order to contact you to get coached by you?
Honestly, Facebook or Instagram is the easiest way to message me on either one of those platforms. Yeah.
So at Jennifer Comfort Coaching, and comfort, spelled like comfort, like the actual word, on both of those. And
what a great last name.
Yeah,
Coach though.
And also, like, you have,
that's like,
I'm competing with gratitude and comfort. Like,
there's so many ways we could go with that.
I'm sure.
Uncomfortable coaching.
Seriously, I thought about it.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, like, honestly, like, I feel like if you want to be coached by somebody, this is the person that you would want to be coached by, because you hear her experiences. It didn't come easy, and she's had some things, so she'll be able to relate to you on so many levels. So, Jen, this was freaking awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to say, you know, like, not many people come back from some of the struggles that you've been through, and the fact that you're able to come back. And I think my favorite part of this interview was, you know, was the end here where you talked about you should have been the happiest that you've been in your whole life, but you were miserable because there was, you know, because of your mindset and your mind frame, and that led you to go down avenues that you probably thought that you would never go down, but then you're there, but you worked out of it. To me, the self-awareness that you have is key. I see it in a lot of people that I know. It's the most important attribute that I think that we can have as humans, is to be self-aware and to allow yourself to feel how you feel and to accept that you're in that moment feeling that certain way. So kudos to you. Your journey is amazing. But I think the fact that you overcame that might be the thing that should be most proud of, because that's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
And you know, and I love that, you know, at the end here, like, this is, you know, more than just a tracker and running show right now. Like, this is for anybody listening, that if you know somebody that you think may be battling, just fast forward to the end of this, because you're, number one, you're never alone.
There's a way out.
You're never alone. There's always a way out. And it's not admitting defeat to do what Jen did, to go check out rehab. It's a start of your journey to being successful again.
But be ready to fight like you've never fought for your life, because that's what it is. It is your life.
Absolutely,
and that is what matters. It's your life, and take control of it.
So
absolutely.
Once again, she's Jennifer Comfort. Overall, you know, fantastic athlete, obviously a great coach, and somebody who, you know, I'm happy to have met you. And you know, I think we're going to continue to be friends from here, because this was fantastic. I loved it. So definitely, if you want to get in contact with Jennifer, you want to get coached by her, which I highly recommend, go find her on Facebook again at Jennifer Comfort Coaching, and on Instagram at Jennifer Comfort Coaching. If you want to follow us, we appreciate everyone that watched today. And everyone that's going to listen on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. Go please subscribe, share, whatever you got to do over there. Spread the word at Talking in Ovals everywhere. And so we can continue to get stories like this. And this is why we do it. We do it for the stories. We are not, we try to not be an X's and O's show.
Results are great, but I'd rather hear someone's journey and their story. And
this is so much more fun. This is
why and you know what? This is great because like it inspires us every week to just want to keep doing this. And
I'm so happy we did it on Thursday. Like we made it.
Like your story is inspiring me to make sure that I do the right things every single day.
Definitely.
So thank you.
So yeah, we appreciate everyone out there. We obviously appreciate Jennifer, Dave. We'll be back next week. Well, it's quick now. We'll be back in a few days. You get bonus, but we appreciate everyone that came back and watched. Obviously it's not our normal day, but we'll be back on schedule. We'll be back on Monday in a few short days, and we appreciate everybody out there. So